We're continuing on with working with queries inside SQL, and again with subqueries. We want to talk using with a multiple row subquery. So a multiple row subquery is where it's going to actually extract multiple values. So you're using more of like a formal query, not just a quick little one-word answer like a scalar subquery we worked with the other day. But what we're looking at is it has more than one row. We're getting an actual table's worth of values. And when I'm talking about a multiple row subquery, we have anywhere from 1 to n columns. So I can have a very wide table with multiple rows, or I can have a very short table, again, always with multiple rows, because I'm getting an actual extraction of values. Depending on how I work with those multiple columns depends on how I can extract the data out of that. But again, just like everything else, this is always going to be surrounded by the vertical parens to work with that structure. And then when I'm using the idea of multiple queries when I'm using the idea of having multiple columns, that's when I would definitely want to make sure I use an as on that and make sure I name the columns that I'm working with explicitly so I can make sure I can extract them out correctly. One of the key things we have to remember when we're working about a multiple subquery is that when we're working the multiple row subqueries, we cannot use the relational or equality operators. So those ones right there, the less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to, equals, not equals to, etc., because those exist for a single individual value versus a row of data, or set multiple rows of data, we can't use them. So instead, when we're looking at making a comparison of that, most often what we're working with is the in operator. The in operator allows us to match against any of the values that are in that sequence, because an in operator has a series of named values, either done with commas for a simple section, or when you're using it as a subquery, it's a table set of results. And that's the most common way we'll work with that when we're working with a multiple row subquery. Again, that's because I get more than one row. I have anywhere from 1 to n columns, and when I'm using with multiple columns, I have another bit of work we'll work with that. We'll talk about that in a more advanced lecture as well. But again, that's what we're doing this, and this is the opposite of using a scalar because I cannot use the relational or the equality operators. Instead, I use the in operator to make sure I match the values that are presented within that. And that's where we're going to go from that. Thanks again, cheers, and have a great day.